Welcome to Seagull Maritime's video on safe mooring operations. In this video, we look at risks on the mooring deck and how they're managed. Throughout, you will be asked to pause the video and reflect on what you've seen and heard. Ideally, you should watch this with at least 2 of your colleagues so that you can engage in group discussion.
I was working on a ferry between Hull and Zeebrugge. So we're out on the mooring deck, tying up the ship every day, a real routine operation. On this day, we were coming into Zeebrugge. And the bosun, of course, was in charge of throwing the heaving line. So we came up alongside and the bridge gave the order to throw the first line, the one for the headline. So that went okay. But when we came to do the first spring line, and I remember I looked across and saw the bosun about to toss the heaving line. Well, I looked away for a moment. I really can't remember why. And then I looked back. And he was gone. I ran over to the side of the ship. And there he was in the water.
Man overboard!
Of course, we got him out all right, almost immediately. But still, it shows you. He told us later that he reckoned there was some moisture on the step, so he'd slipped, lost his balance and went over the side.
Formal risk assessments are essential to protect crew. But being aware of the personal risks associated with a mooring operation will increase the safety of those involved. Commonly called situational awareness, this requires constantly being aware of what is going on around you and recognizing if the operation is safe or unsafe. A well-trained crew should constantly look out for hazards, and you should be encouraged to react in a safety-based way when you encounter one. This should not slow the operation, but improve safety and effectiveness, as it is more likely to reinforce the stop and think policy. Due to the nature of the operation, the mooring deck has numerous hazards, including an increased risk of slips, trips and falls, slippery substances on the deck, areas without non-skid paint, which can be especially hazardous where there is condensation, and items of equipment, if climbed on, can all lead to slips, while trips arise from fixed equipment on deck. Loose or unnecessary items of equipment lying around, and mooring ropes. Falls can occur because of open hatches, open hawse pipes, or the vessel's side if there are rails or bulwark caps. Other hazards include the mooring and tug lines themselves. If they are in bad condition, have been exposed to chemicals, or are subjected to excessive strain, they can snap back and cause injury. And wires can have snags from broken strands that can damage the skin. A crew member standing in the bight of a rope is in a very dangerous position, as a rope running out from a vessel may do so in an uncontrolled manner and trap a foot. If so, it is very difficult to stop. Rotating machinery has its own set of risks. Clothing or limbs can become trapped. Ropes can press people up against it, and it is possible to be crushed by it. When a weight is incorrectly placed inside the monkey's fist, or it has been hardened with paint, the weighted end can result in an injury if it hits a person. If mooring equipment fails, such as a pedestal roller, this can cause injury to a crew member. And stoppers in poor condition can part under strain when in use. There are also environmental effects to consider, such as ice or snow on the deck, which increases the risk of slipping. Strong winds can also affect the safety of a mooring operation. The force on a vessel can create tension in the mooring lines, which makes handling the ropes more difficult and enhances the possibility of line failure. Wind also causes waves. When they are large, a tug will snatch at a connected line, increasing the possibility of line failure or equipment damage. Due to the large force exerted by a connected tug, there have been cases where a bollard has been torn off the deck and a chock has been ripped out of the side, though poor design and corrosion were also contributing factors. A connected tug applies the most force when the tug is turning the ship, or being used to reduce speed. This is when the strain on the tug line is at its highest and more likely to part.
Think about the mooring deck on board your vessel. Is it made as safe as possible? Are there any unnecessary hazards? Click the pause button and start your discussion.
As with any operation on board a ship, it's important that you manage the risks effectively, especially when you consider the recoil speed at which the ends of a broken mooring line can travel. Check the surface of the deck for ice and snow. If possible, remove it from the deck. If not, apply salt or sand. Ensure that there are no traces of grease or oil, and that the non-slip coating covers all areas and remains intact. There is also loose equipment required for a mooring operation. Ensure that all lines and stoppers are fit for purpose, without damage to the strands, or signs of wasting due to chemical or UV exposure. The throwing end of the heaving line should either be a monkey's fist without added weight, or a soft weight, such as a sandbag, which will not cause injury if it strikes a person. Stoppers should be the correct type for their intended use. This will be a chain stopper on a wire and a fibre stopper on a fibre rope, though these should not be made of polyamide, as it is too slippery to be effective. If these have to be attached to the deck before an operation, shackle them into place, making sure that the shackle pin will not come loose. You should also use communications equipment, such as a portable radio or public address system, but this must be working normally to allow two-way communications. Other loose equipment includes a messenger, rat guards, and chain hooks, which are used to handle wires and ropes onto split drum winches. You may also work with powered mooring equipment, which typically includes a windlass, a capstan, a winch, and a hydraulic brake release. Check all fixed equipment to ensure there is full control of the device, the clutches and brake systems are functioning as expected, and the motors and gearing are as normal, as well as ensuring that the hydraulic systems are running with adequate oil at the correct pressure. All moving parts should be greased and free-moving, and drum ends should be clear of scale, paint, ice and snow. Check that rollers on fair leads or pedestals are free turning, and that emergency stops are functioning. Ensure that deck floodlights are working for night operations, and that the brake rendering tension has been previously set and tested using specialized equipment. Use the painted walkways on the mooring deck, as they will guide you past obstacles. They should also have a non-slip coating. Paint is also used to mark the zones adjacent to rotating machinery, the inside of rotating drums, and the top of rollers to show when they are in motion, as well as being used to mark trip hazards, such as where beams pass through the deck plating. Mooring operations have many associated risks and hazards, but with effective risk assessment and management, you can minimize these risks and avoid unwanted incidents.
Do you regularly see any unsafe practices or behaviour during mooring operations on board your vessel? If you do see any, what should you do? Click the pause button and start your discussion.